Hello everyone, welcome back to my channel. My name is Jalen and today I have a video covering my most anticipated literary fiction coming out between August and December of 2022. So I did a lot of scouring of a couple of lists that I found online of anticipated releases. I looked at NetGalley, which is a good place to go to find some upcoming stuff. And I also have some ARCs that I've received. And so let's just hop into it. And I'm going to go in chronological order starting August 2nd, which has a bunch of releases. So let's do it. The first book is Dogs of Summer by Andrea Abreu. Not sure how to pronounce her name, but it's translated by Julia Sanches. This one, it says, my brilliant friend meets blue as the warmest color in this lyrical debut novel set in a working class neighborhood of the Canary Islands. A story about two girls coming of age in the early aughts and a friendship that simmers into erotic desire over the course of one hot summer. Sounds incredible. Friendship, a hot summer, Spain, queer longing. I'm all about it. It sounds incredible. And this cover is excellent. And it's also a really slim little read. So I think I'm going to pick this one up probably by the end of July, I want to say. So full thoughts to come very soon. Next up, I have Delphi by Pollard. This one's also out August 2nd. This one says, for readers of Jenny Offal, Deborah Levy, and Olivia Lang, an exquisite debut novel about a classics academic researching prophecy in the ancient world, just as the pandemic descends and all visions of her own family's future begin to blur. So this one sounds kind of big-brained energy, depressed woman moving, potentially, given the comparisons to like Jenny Offal and Deborah Levy and Olivia Lang. I think this one's going to be quite buzzy. It's out from Avid Reader Press, and they do a really good job with their marketing, so I'm sure you will see a lot of this one coming soon. But yeah, it sounds excellent and right up my alley, so I will be reading that as soon as I get my hands on a copy. Next up is The Rabbit Hutch by Tess Gunty, also out August 2nd. First of all, this cover, it like glows, even though it's not glowing. I'm obsessed with this cover. I like the font. I love the color scheme going on. It's gorge. But this one says, The Rabbit Hutch is a stunning debut novel about four teenagers, recently aged out of the state foster care system, living together in an apartment building in the post-industrial Midwest, exploring the quest for transcendence and the desire for love. Sounds really great. It has a blurb from Raven Leilani, Rivka Galchin, Mark Z. Danielewski, author of House of Leaves, and this is a writer who received her MFA from New York University, which I tend to find that the NYU MFA program leads to books that I tend to really enjoy, so I'm excited to see where this one goes. I think I'll read this, if not this month, next month. She's Gorgina, so there's that. Next up is The Last White Man by Mohsin Hamid. He is the author of Exit West, which was a really buzzy book a couple of years ago, which I have not read, but this one sounds interesting. So this one is about a white man who wakes up and finds that his skin has turned brown, and this starts to happen across this unnamed country in terms of white people developing brown skin. So it seems to be a book that's deeply rooted in race and exploring that through this sort of conceit. It sounds interesting, and I've seen some mixed things on this book. It sounds really ambitious and interesting, and I think it's really short too. But yeah, if you've read Exit West, let me know if you think I will like his work. Next up, I have a book that also sounds quite weird and interesting. It's Querelle of Roberval. This one is by Kevin Lambert, translated from the French by Donald Winkler. He is a Canadian writer, and this one sounds really weird. So it's about Roberval, which is a northern Quebec logging town. There is a mill workers' strike that rips the close-knit community apart. When their boss decrees a lockout and awakens in the workers a buried rage, they rally around the mysterious and magnetic influence of Querelle, a dashingly cosmopolitan newcomer from Montreal. By day, Querelle walks the picket lines with his cohort, but at night he breaks bottles on the beach and settles scores with baseball bats. In the town's privileged young men flock to his apartment for sex. As positions harden and both sides refuse to yield, sand stalls the gears of the economic machine, and the tinderbox of class struggle and entitlement ignites in a firestorm of passions carnal and violent. And I read a review of this that compared some of like the sex scenes and violence that happen. It compared it to Dennis Cooper, who wrote The Sluts, which is one of my favorite books so far this year. That book messed me up significantly, so I think this one's going to be quite dark and queer and steamy and interesting. And yeah, I don't know, great cover too in terms of this yellow type with the dark cover, and there's a half-naked man on it. We love. And that one's also out August 2nd, if I did not say that already. Next up, I have Mother in the Dark by Kayla Maiuri. This one is out August 9th, and this is my friend on Instagram and TikTok. She has really great accounts on there and really great taste in books, and given her taste, I'm really excited to see what she does with her debut novel. But this one is a story about sisterhood, the complications of class, and the chains of inheritance between mothers and daughters. Mother in the Dark delivers an unvarnished portrayal of a young woman consumed by her past in a family teetering on the edge of a knife. I love a dark family drama, fraught familiar relationships, something I tend to gravitate toward in fiction, so I'm really excited to read this from her, and I hope to have her on the channel as well, so we will see. Next, I have My Government Means to Kill Me by Rasheed Newson. This one comes out August 23rd, and this is from the television drama writer and producer of The Chi, Narcos, and Bel Air. I think this is his debut novel, and it says it's a fierce and riveting queer coming-of-age story following the personal and political awakening of a young gay black man in 1980s New York City. So I think this will be quite a pacey thriller style of a book that I'm excited for, and I love this cover as well. I love pink, I love black covers. Great. Next, I have The Marriage Portrait by Maggie O'Farrell, who wrote Hamnet, which I really loved this year. And this one seems to be similarly rooted in historical fiction, so I'm excited to see what she does with it, because I think she writes really lush, just gorgeous, beautiful prose, and I really like her descriptions, and I love what she's able to do with the historical framework in that book. So this one says, it brings the world of Renaissance Italy to jewel-bright life in this unforgettable portrait of the captivating young Duchess Lucrezia de Medici as she makes her way in a troubled court. Sounds great, cover's gorgeous, we'll be reading it. Actually read Hamnet. I did a buddy read with Noelle Gallagher and Jess Decker Reads on Instagram, and so I hope that all three of us can get together for another buddy read and do that, but we shall see. Next up, I have an interconnected short story collection, which I love. It's If I Survive You by Jonathan Escoffery. This one is out September 6th. Another gorge cover. She's Stenosh. This one sounds excellent. It has a blurb from Anne Patchett. I saw a blurb somewhere. A major debut, blazing with style and heart, that follows a Jamaican family striving for more in Miami and introduces a generational storyteller. I love generational family dramas. This is in a setting that I haven't read too much of before, so I'm really excited to get to this, and I've seen some like incredible high praise, and I love a connected story collection that is a very like kind of niche thing that I don't see a lot of covered on BookTube, so I'm excited to check this out very soon. Next, I have a book that I'm currently reading. It's Bliss Montage by Ling Ma. She is the author of Severance, and I'm halfway through this collection, and it's very good, very weird. She uses like this surrealist framework to tell stories primarily of fraught relationships, and there's two stories here that are about domestic violence. The stories of Bliss Montage crash through our carefully built mirages. What happens when fantasy tears the screen of the everyday to wake us up? Could that waking be our end? So I will have full thoughts on this one by the end of the month, but I will say the first three stories are just masterpieces in terms of pacing, keep you questioning, and I just couldn't put them down, and so I'm really hyped to see where the rest of this collection goes, but it's great so far, and another lovely cover. I'm obsessed. Okay, next up I have The Book of Goose by Yiyun Lee. This one comes out September 20th. This one says, a magnificent beguiling tale winding from the post-war rural provinces to Paris, from an English boarding school to the quiet Pennsylvania home where a woman can live without her past. The Book of Goose is a story of disturbing intimacy and obsession, of exploitation and strength of will by the celebrated author Yiyun Lee. I have never read Yiyun Lee's work before, but she has been recommended to me before, so I'm going to start with this one, I think, because it's new, hot off the press, and this cover is also gorgeous. Trend here. Good cover for literary fiction. I'm loving the attention to detail that's being brought to literary fiction. All of these so far I'm really digging. So next up I have How Not to Drown in a Glass of Water by Angie Cruz. This one comes out This one comes out September 13th, and this is the author of Dominicana, which I have not read, but it's on my TBR, but I have a couple of friends that really loved it, and I know that was quite a buzzy book when it came out. But this one says, an electrifying new novel about a woman who has lost everything but the chance to finally tell her story. It's a very vague description of this, but I think they're selling it on the author alone. Another cool cover, like the orange and blue going on. But yeah, if you've read Dominicana, let me know if you're hyped for this, if you think I'd like it. I would love to hear that. Next up, I have The Furrows by Namwali Serpell. This one comes out September 27th, and I have one of her books on my TBR. I believe it's called The Faces, or Strange Faces or something, and it's all about, I think, like beauty and face, of course. That was the worst description ever. I'm blanking on what it's about, but this one, Cassandra Williams is 12, her little brother Wayne is 7. One day, when they're alone together, there's an accident and Wayne is lost forever. His body is never recovered. The missing boy cleaves the family with doubt. Their father leaves, starts another family elsewhere, but their mother can't give up hope and launches in an organization dedicated to missing children. As C grows older, she sees her brother everywhere, in bistros, airplane aisles, subway cars. Here's her brother's face, the light in his eyes, the way he seems to recognize her too. But it can't be, of course, or can it? Then one day, in another accident, C meets a man, both mysterious and familiar, a man who's also searching for someone and for his own place in the world. His name is Wayne. Sounds mysterious and weird, and also seems to be about like faces a little bit, so I would like to read her other book in preparation for this coming out soon, but it sounds like a literary thriller, and I love that, so we shall see. Okay, next up, moving into October, and a spooky read for the season, it's Motherthing by Ainslie Hogarth. This one comes out October 4th. I'm obsessed with this cover as well, like loving the horrorness of it all. I like the collage moment. Pink, white. Ooh, I love it. This one says, a darkly funny domestic horror novel about a woman who must take drastic measures to save her husband and herself from the vengeful ghost of her mother-in-law. I love that. I think it's going to be a bit of a horror comedy of sorts, and I think this is one I'm going to read probably. I kind of want to read it now because I'm in the mood for like horror and I haven't read a horror in a while, but yeah, I think this one will be everywhere come October time. Okay, next up, I have a piece of autofiction that I want to read. It's The Hero of This Book by Elizabeth McCracken, also out on October 4th. This one says, a taut, groundbreaking novel from McCracken about a writer's relationship with her larger-than-life mother and about the very nature of writing, memory, and art. I've seen a lot of early buzz that makes it sound like right up my alley in terms of autofiction, books about writing, thinking about the form, and also about family relationships. I think the melding of those two things here sounds right up my alley, and McCracken's an author that I've been wanting to read for a while, so I'm hyped for this. Next up is Our Missing Hearts by Celeste Ng, out also October 4th. This is the author of Little Fires Everywhere and Everything I Never Told You, I believe is the title, which I've read both of those books back in the day before even like Bookstagram was a thing for me. So I'm curious to read her new one to see if I still like Celeste Ng. I know she kind of toes the line of like commercial and literary, and this one says, a deeply suspenseful and heartrending novel about the unbreakable love between a mother and child in a society consumed by fear. So I think it's going to play into some similar themes of her other books, but I'm curious to see, given all of her success, what she does in a new venture. Okay, next up I have Liberation Day by George Saunders. It's a new short story collection from him, out October 18th. And I'm so excited for this because his book, A Swim in a Pond in the Rain, which was a short story collection looking at Russian short stories, and then his own essays about the form and what he thinks about short stories and how he approaches craft and escalation in the form and just his love of the form. I am so excited to check out his own work. And I haven't read his short stories before or any of his fiction, so I'm really curious to likely start here and see his own short stories. I don't know why I haven't read them yet. I am excited to see this follow-up from that collection to kind of see how he employs his own thoughts and criticisms of the form into his own writing. So that will be fun. Next up, I have Ghost Town by Kevin Chen. So in this one, we follow a character named Chen, and he is the only and desperately yearned-for son of a traditional Taiwanese family with 7 daughters, and he runs away from the oppression of his village to Berlin in the hope of finding acceptance as a young gay man. We love a queer read, but this one then says, the novel begins a decade later when Chen has just been released from prison for killing his boyfriend. He is about to return to his family's village, a poor and desolate place. With his parents gone, his sisters married, mad, or dead, there's nothing left for him there. As the story unfurls, we learn what tore this family apart, and more importantly, the truth behind the murder of Chen's boyfriend. So this one is like a literary thriller mystery of sorts. Sounds incredible. I want to read it right now. And I love the cover too. Family Secrets, murder mystery, interesting, sounds good. Next up I have a dual release. It's the new books coming out from Cormac McCarthy. It's The Passenger and Stella Maris. The Passenger comes out October 25th, and then I think it's the sequel, or like the coda, comes out December 6th. In this one it says, The Passenger is the story of a salvage diver, haunted by loss, afraid of the watery deep, pursued for a conspiracy beyond his understanding, and longing for a death he cannot reconcile with God. And I know Cormac McCarthy is a well-loved author, and I've never read him before, and so I recently put a poll on my Instagram stories to ask where I should start. I currently own No Country for Old Men, The Road, and Blood Meridian, which are 3 of his most popular books, so I want to start with one of those. Let me know in the comments below if you have an opinion on where I should start, but I want to read one of his before these come out later this year. Next up, I have Is Mother Dead by, I don't know how to pronounce this author's name, Vigdis Jorth. I might have just butchered that. I believe she's quite a famous writer. But this one is a new one coming out October 25th, and it sounds so good. This one says, a cat and mouse game of surveillance and psychological torment develops between a middle-aged artist and her aging mother. So another potential like literary thriller of sorts that tends to be like my sweet spot of books that I want to pick up immediately, but then I have like differing opinions on. This one sounds good. I know she's an author that many smart people love, so I think this is going to be a fun one for me to check out. I actually just got approved for an arc of this, so much excitement on my end. 3 more to go. Next up, I have Participation by Anna Mashovikis. Again with the pronunciation, my bad. But she translated one of my favorite books of 2020, At Night All Blood is Black by David Diop, which won the International Booker Prize, which I think was well-deserved. And so I saw that she had a book coming out, and I was like, oh, hell yeah, I want to check this out. And this one sounds really weird. I'm not completely sure I understand what it's about, but I am very intrigued. So it says, this book involves 2 reading groups, unofficially called Love and Anti-Love, falter amidst political friction and signs of environmental collapse. We love a cli-fi moment, and we love books about reading and books, so sounds interesting. But it says, Participation offers a prescient look at communication in a time of rupture. Anonymous participants exchange fantasies and ruminations, and relationships develop and unravel. As the groups consider or neglect their syllabi, and connections between members deepen, a mentor disappears, a translator questions his role, a colleague known as the capitalist becomes a point of fixation, and the news reports filter through in fragments. With incisive prose and surprising structural shifts, Participation forms an alluring vision of community and a love story like no other. Sounds very weird and ambitious in terms of structure, which I tend to really like in fiction, so we'll see where I land on this one. Should be a ride from what I can tell. Next up, I have a book I'm so hyped for. It's Trespasses by Louise Kennedy. This one's out November 8th. Brandon Taylor, one of my favorite writers, he recently posted on his Instagram stories, was like, this novel is wild, so if he says that, I want to read it. Lovely cover as well. I love pink type on a cover, but this one says, set in Northern Ireland during the Troubles, a shattering novel about a young woman caught between allegiance to community and a dangerous passion. And so it goes further and it says, amid daily reports of violence, Cushla lives a quiet life with her mother in a small town near Belfast. By day, she teaches at a parochial school. At night, she fills in at her family's pub. There she meets Michael Agnew, a barrister who's made a name for himself defending IRA members. Against her better judgment, Michael is not only Protestant but older and married. Cushla lets herself get drawn in by him in a sophisticated world, and an affair ignites. Then the father of a student is savagely beaten, setting in motion a chain reaction that will threaten everything and everyone Cushla most wants to protect. That sounds juicy as hell. The drama, I would like an arc now. I do not have one, but I am excited to read this. It's going to be a romp, I think. That might be a fun book club pick. I've been wanting to read more about the Troubles, so yeah, sounds good. Lastly, a book that I'm so stoked for too, it's Aesthetica by Ali Rowbottom. This one's out November 22nd. This one is a debut novel, as radiant as it is caustic. A former influencer confronts her past and takes inventory of the damages that underpin the surface glamour of social media. 19, she was an Instagram celebrity. Now at 35, she works behind the cosmetic counter at the Black and White store, peddling anti-aging products to women seeking physical and spiritual transformation. She too is seeking rebirth. She's about to undergo the high-risk elective surgery called Aesthetica, a procedure that will reverse all of her past plastic surgery procedures, returning her, she hopes, to a truer self, provided she survives the knife. But on the eve of the surgery, her traumatic past resurfaces when she is asked to participate in the public takedown of her former manager/boyfriend, who has rebranded himself as a paragon of woke masculinity in the post-Me Too world. With the hours ticking down to her surgery, she must confront the ugly truth about her experiences on and off the Instagram grid. That sounds hot as hell. A little bit of like trauma plot situation going on, so I'm curious to see how it handles like a futuristic take on influencer culture and like using the retrospective ideas there and also blending with this like kind of thriller aspect to it. Sounds really good. Those are my most anticipated reads for the rest of 2022. There's a lot of books I would like to purchase and read. So I hope you find something in this list that intrigues you. And if you end up picking up one of these, I hope you love it. Let me know what you think of them. If you'd like me to cover like nonfiction or something for most anticipated, I know I read less nonfiction, but I would definitely do that if you want me to do some research and make another video, because these are fun to do. I like doing research and being excited about new books. If I'm missing anything, please let me know down below. Is there a book that you're looking forward to that I have not named? Let's keep the list going. We'll catch you all in the next one. Bye.